Welcome to Comic Movie 10, where you get insight into everything comic book movies and television related in 10 minutes or less. I'm Joe Kane.
And I'm Dan Kane. No relation. Hey, don't forget to subscribe and share and keep up with us at hecklerkane.com.
On this episode, we're going to be discussing how Black Lightning could possibly tie into the Arrowverse.
Yeah, we have a couple of theories. We have three main theories that we're going to be sharing with you guys on how we think that Black Lightning will be taking part in the Arrowverse. But we'd like to start out with just a little recap. It just ended. The season just ended.
First season. We got to see Cress Williams play Jefferson Pierce, a.k.a. Black Lightning.
At this point in his path, it was he had given up being Black Lightning, and now he's back. He's drawn back into it because Freeland, where he lives, is basically being overrun by this the 100.
Yeah,
which is a gang.
A gang selling drugs. A drug called Green Light.
Yeah,
and it's destroying the neighborhood. So it kind of sucks him back into wanting to help out the people in his neighborhood. He also plays the principal of the school, so he's trying to help the youth and help everyone in multiple different ways. He really genuinely cares
on both
about
sides
his
of the
community.
community. He's trying to make it better by defending them at night as Black Lightning, and by defending them by day as the principal of Garfield High.
Right, and the 100 you find out winds up that it's controlled by several people. Yeah, Lady Eve, but the main antagonist becomes Tobias Whale, who is
the person who was known for killing Black Lightning back in the day and ended his
or so he thought life.
Yeah, thought he ended his life, but that ended his superhero career back in the day.
Right.
So now we're set 9 years later. We take a cool, gritty look. It's raw. Yeah. It's kind of like everything. We follow this guy. We see his how his family is reacting. It's a touching story, like the whole arc of what's gone on throughout this series.
And you start to see along the way his daughters wind up finding out that they also have powers. And in fact, his oldest one winds up becoming Thunder. Becomes a sidekick of his that he's out there fighting with. The younger, and she embraces it. The younger one doesn't want anything to do with it.
No, this series has definitely shown a cool different side of society where we're looking at Freeland, which is just it's poor, it's affected by crime, it's really run by this Tobias Whale,
right?
Who is got his thumb on the pulse of this, and we also show that there's a government agency who's kind of involved and doesn't really care about the people there, is kind of experimenting on people.
Right, and it's really, it's a darker kind of show than the rest of the Arrowverse. The only thing I can compare it to with the rest of the CW superhero shows is early Arrow.
Sure.
Arrow was a little grittier, a little meaner, and that's the only thing I can think of. But I think it's even a little meaner than that.
Sure. It has a hard edge to it.
Right.
And it also has a couple of laughable moments. There's times when he turns around and he just cracks a joke, and it works because there's a lot of tension and release.
Right. Absolutely. So we mainly wanted to get to a couple different scenarios there. We thought that it could tie in to the Arrowverse.
So looking at this, and now that we've seen the whole series, and it was said by the producers that they're not tying into the Arrowverse for the first season, and they may tie into the Arrowverse for the second season.
Right.
So with that may quote, we want to give you what we think is our interpretation on how it could tie in.
Right.
So number one we're going to go with is Freeland is just another city, and it has metahumans, and there's the discovery of metahumans and the intertwining between Barry Allen having metahumans in his area,
right,
and it's some kind of relation that way.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that it's basically set in the same world, the same universe. That along the lines they could meet up the same way that the other guys met up.
Well, we're thinking it'll be some kind of cataclysmic thing, and it'll just affect both cities. That's the simplicity of it. That could be just a simple thing. I feel like it's going to be more complex than that. And I think that we need that tie-in that has been there the whole time, but we didn't notice.
Right.
And that moves on to our second choice.
Our second choice. Okay, so this goes back to an episode when Jefferson's youngest daughter finds out she has the powers. She finds out her older sister has powers.
Yes.
She's freaking out about this, and she's talking to her mother, and she asks her mother,
Well, not unless you came in here to tell me you're Vixen. You didn't, right?
Busted.
No,
I'm kidding.
it's not funny.
I'm sorry. No, I'm not Vixen or Supergirl.
So that little one piece of dialogue sparked this giant little thing in our heads that now we are not actually set in the same area, in the same world as the rest of the Arrowverse.
right,
Except for Supergirl's world. Supergirl is on Earth 38.
yes,
And she has been separate from the rest of it, even though she's able to tie in. So there is your tie-in right there. We know that in his world and their Freeland is a part of the same place that Supergirl is.
right.
Supergirl exists.
She exists in this world, so they're from that world. Also, to add to that, it could be his daughter struggling to deal with the fact that she has powers, and the tie-in could at some point be something to the effect of talking to another woman with powers to learn how she handles them. Was it a problem? How do you deal with it? These are things that popped into our
and
head.
that's the immediate direct relation and correlation to go that they live on Earth 38. They're not on our Earth.
Right. Well, let us down that road. Also, she mentions Vixen,
Yep.
which was
Vixen is in the Arrowverse, and
Right.
she's been in several different incarnations of Vixen. We have Amaya, who is played in
DC Legends.
DC Legends, which is the first Vixen from
1942.
1942. Thank you.
Yes.
In 1942, she's that Vixen from that era, and then we have another Vixen which has been on Arrow.
Right.
So we have that tie-in of Vixen, but it's always possible because they've shown throughout the multiverse that there are different incarnations of the same person.
Right.
So, and Vixen isn't one person. Vixen is a series of people that own these wear these totems that
Right.
give them powers.
right.
So Vixen could also be on Earth 38.
Could also be on Earth 38 or in any time frame or anywhere.
Yes, well,
actually, at this point, with
yes.
if DC Legends is involved.
Yeah.
Another theory. This is
a far-fetched theory.
This is a little out there. Just not that there's any hint of it being anything. Just a thought in our brain that hey, they could go this route.
And it ties a lot of things together, actually, by doing this.
It could, if you remember Arrow, Thea Queen owned a club called Verdant. Was it Verdant?
Yes.
Verdant, which is basically the word green or has to do with green. I think it's
Yeah.
French. And even if you look at, verde is green in
Is green in
Spanish,
Spanish.
just that first ver.
Verdant, if you look up the definition, it says something green, something grassy,
Right.
something leafy.
Right, something leafy. And on top of that, the big drug that was hurting Star City, or Sterling City at the time, into Star City,
Yes.
was vertigo.
And if you look at what Vertigo looks like throughout the series,
Yeah.
it looks like it's a green glowing substance
And-
or green pills.
Right. And the drug that is destroying Freeland is green light. So we thought maybe there could be some sort of tie-in with the two drugs. Maybe green light was developed and started with vertigo, and now for some reason Jefferson and Oliver Queen wind up coming together to get to the bottom of a certain situation, where the drugs came from, how they can
Following the drug line.
how they can be traced or how they can be created from vertigo, maybe into green light again. Something
It's-
we came up with.
It's a long stretch,
Yeah.
but I think it's perfectly viable because they've set that up already. That they have two drug problems in two different cities that are leaning back to trying to connect it to the people who are distributing and people who are making them. And there's been a long line of Oliver Queen as Arrow going up the food chain to figure out where Vertigo is coming from and the different incarnations of Vertigo. The same thing is happening now in Black Lightning. So this is a tie together, which would be a good tie together. So producers, if you're listening, we want credit for that. But again, this is a long shot. If you agree with us, if you have your own vision on how the DC universe can collide together and add Black Lightning to the Arrowverse, let us know in the comments down below.
We love bringing you these episodes, and we need your help to keep them coming.
Please don't forget to share and subscribe, and keep up with us at hecklakane.com.